The fuel-guzzling four-wheel drive vehicles in the hands of the country's top executives, including ministers, reeks of extravagance. When the VIP's vehicles roars past an ordinary Ugandan, many of us stare in awe. At Parliament, where these cars park after dropping off and picking up ministers, the parking is dotted with the latest Mercedes-Benz like the S500, V8 Land Cruisers and Prados. But how much does the taxpayer pay for these luxurious cars? We got the latest prices on the Toyota website. The price of the Prado TXL, which the Deputy Prime Minister Henry Kajura drives, is at 176 million shillings with an engine capacity of 3000cc diesel engine. This is the same vehicle that the Water Minister Ephraim Kamuntu and the ICT Minister Engineer John Nasasira drive. This is also the car that most of the other ministers drive. The Land Cruiser GX V8 sells at 286 million shillings with the engine capacity of 4500cc diesel engine. These cars are driven by officials from Judiciary and the Ministry of Defense. The price tag for the Mercedes-Benz S500 is at 419 million shillings, which the Speaker of Parliament Rebecca Kadaga had Deputy Jacob Olanya and the Prime Minister Amama Mbabazi enjoy. Although the total amount of government expenditure on these cars is not clear, there is no doubt that it forms a reasonable fraction of the budget.
These people started upgrading their status and started developing extra appetite for luxurious vehicles. From Nissan Laurels, they moved to Pajeros, station wagon Pajeros. And as station wagon Pajeros, which were mainly 2,500cc, many of them shot and thought these were very cheap cars. Then they went to Nissan Patrols, which were of 4,500cc. And today, as we talk, no minister wants to hear about a cheap vehicle. All these ministers are driving very expensive guzzler cars.
It is against this backdrop that opposition MPs are demanding that government puts an end to buying the vehicles for all public servants, save for the President, the Vice President, Health and Defense Ministries.
We are proposing measures to save abuse of public resource, like use of public vehicles by ministers and civil servants should be abolished totally. Through that reform, we shall be able to save annually more than 500 billion shillings, which then can be used to support the health sector, education, and then increase pay for the civil servants.
Currently, the taxpayer foots the bills for maintenance, fueling, and chauffeuring these vehicles. Shadow Finance Minister Geoffrey Ekanya says government officials and ministers should instead buy these cars on loans.
This was part of the reforms of 1992 to 94, and the government was supposed to introduce co-ownership of vehicles, but it was abused and collapsed. Presently, members of parliament, we are given advance and we purchase our vehicles, we manage it, do maintenance, and last for more than 5 years. That's what we are proposing.
But the ministers have poured scorn on the suggestion, saying that it is not practical.
Well, how would the government operate? Of course, ministers have to be facilitated in order to do their work. How do you do work without traveling from point A to point B? That is just hogwash.
He was saying
the criteria for choice should be on cost effectiveness. Is what is proposing more effective than currently? By how much would it save the country? How would he know it wouldn't cost the government more? You see, this is the point. Once you make a policy, it must be informed by empirical evidence. And that was not evident in Kenya's presentation, nothing.
Others argue that if the loan scheme is to work, government needs to increase their salaries.
At the moment, the salaries of most public servants are still reasonably low. No, unless government finds money in the budget and buys cars for people. Remember, we tried it even for parliament and it was difficult. and then people pay slowly from their salaries. But if you are getting 1 million shillings, you think you can manage a car loan?
Government can only procure new vehicles even though it sets a ceiling of 3,000cc engine capacity vehicles. Despite this, latest government vehicles beyond this ceiling are seen on the road.
But here in Uganda, after 2-3 years, new fleets of vehicles are being bought for ministers. And yet, how many of us Ugandans and how many of us, even members of parliament here, drive new cars? We drive old, what we'll call kunkumla cars which are 10 years old, but when they come here, because this is our responsibility, we make sure we service it and it is able to last a 10, 20 years.
Just to break it down, in every ministry, a minister is entitled to a car, his deputy has a car, commissioners have a car, and it goes on and on up to the directors. And this trickles down to the taxpayers' money. But how exactly do all these cars end up in these government institutions?
The Ministry of Finance does not actually involve itself in the direct procurement of vehicles. Our role is to provide the resource that ministries need. What happens before the budget is passed? Ministries come up with a needs list. The needs list is incorporated into their overall input into the budget. Our role is to release the funds to the ministry. It's the ministries that come up with these procurement needs. It's the ministries that spend the money. It's the ministries that account for them.
Solomon Serwanjja, NTV.